Hello everybody, I'm Rusty. I want to welcome you to Island Breeze Tropicals. So today we are going to be looking at our bromeliads and asking the question, does my bromeliad need water? So the sun is shining, the island breeze is blowing. It's time that you and I got growing. Come on, let's have some fun. And why don't we take a look at some bromeliads and see if there is a way that we can tell that our bromeliads need a little bit more water. So before we get going today, if this is your first time to the channel, welcome. It's great to have you with us. If you like what you see, could you do me a favor? Hit that like button down there. And why don't you become a member of our bromeliad family and become a subscriber? Thanks a lot. Now, why don't we get to today's video? So, okay guys, I'm going to show you some real extreme examples of moisture stress. I've always called it drought stress, but it simply means that your bromeliad, for whatever reason, has not gotten enough water. Now that happens. Let's say that you have a lot of bromeliads and you turn a sprinkling system on and you think everything is fine, and who knows, maybe weeks go by and you find out that a bromeliad like this, oh my God, look at that. Yes, this is a really extreme example, but it's going to be emblematic of what you look for if there is a problem. But why don't we take a look at some not so drastic bromeliads and see what you look for to find out if you need to water your bromeliad a little bit more. So there are two main ways to find out if your bromeliad is a little moisture stressed or stressed from not having enough moisture, and that can happen in your collection. Your bromeliads can get shaded by other bromeliads or other plants in your landscape, and if rain or watering doesn't get to them, remember they have to have water down in the cup if they are a tank type bromeliad. And if they dry out, there are ways to tell before it gets really, really bad. Now, the first way that we're going to look at is you're going to see a little bit of tip dieback on the leaves. Now, that generally only happens with your much larger bromeliads that have a tendency to be a little bit more terrestrial. I'm thinking alcantarias because that's where I've seen it the most. So why don't we take a look at an example? So one of the ways that we can look at a distance and tell whether or not our bromeliad is suffering from moisture stress or the lack of it is tip dieback. And if you take a look at the tips of these leaves, you can see that they got a little scorched. And the reason for that is that in our larger genera, like Alcantaria, that's what this is, they require a little bit more water in order to maintain such a large amount of biomass. And so if the substrate gets dry, if these guys are in pots, it generally won't happen in the ground, but if they are in pots, then they're not getting enough moisture. You can see some grasshopper damage. The lubbers here have been terrible this year. So this is generally going to happen to our larger bromeliads in pots. And in general, it really doesn't hurt the plant a whole lot. That can be trimmed out. We actually have a video showing how to trim bromeliads. So this is one of the ways that you can detect a lack of water in our larger bromes. But there's another indication, and it's a little bit more self-evident. Why don't we go back up on the plant deck and I'll show you. Now, in general, a little bit of tip dieback is not a bad thing. It really happens with some of the larger bromeliads like Alcantarias. I've also seen it on some of the large Echmeas and Hohenbergias. They also utilize their root system to bring water in addition to having water in the central tank. And when you have such a large bromeliad and you have it in a pot, that pot is a limiting factor. Now, the plant's not going to have any problems in general. You're just going to have a little bit of tip dieback, but that's one of the things to look at. So that's an indication, maybe keep the substrate a little bit more damp. Not soaking sopping wet, but damp. So there is another indication that you can look at on your bromeliad that will show you if it has not gotten adequate water into the tank. And I'm going to show you what that is right now. Okay, so I'm going to show you a bromeliad pup, and you know what? Don't know what this is. It was just given to me and we're going to grow it up and find out. But what I want to show you are the leaves. And it's not the color or anything, but take a look and you can see where the leaves are cupping. And see how they're cupped right in here? Look at this right here. Can you see that? I'm going to try and get it in the frame. See right there? See how the leaves are cupped on this? Now that's an indication that this pup was waiting to be potted. I can tell you that I never got to it, and it dried out a little bit. Now, when you see your bromeliad like this, all you have to do is plant your bromeliad and then give it adequate water, and this cupping will go away. So, why is your bromeliad's leaves cupping? Because it's not getting enough water. Well, what it's trying to do is lessen the surface area that can dry out your bromeliad. And so what it does is it cups the leaves like this right here. I'm going to bring it around there and you can see that that's cupped. Well, that has less surface area to dry out. It's not exposed to sun and wind. And that's what this plant is trying to do. And in most cases, just some adequate watering, and in a few days, this bromeliad pup will be just fine. Okay, so this is not a pup. This is an established bromeliad. This is another unnamed Neoregelia. I think it's kind of cute. Now, if you take a look at the leaves, that's not really cupping in here. These leaves are naturally cupped just a little bit. A lot of our bromeliads are. They're not always flat. And you just take a look at this and you can say, we're okay. There's nothing wrong. But take a look at this pup and look at that, guys. That poor pup was not getting any moisture, and I can tell you it was because it was shaded by another plant where the adult was not. Now, the adult has a little bit more cupping than what I really wanted to show you, because I had it up here on the plant deck for a number of days and did not water it. But this is what you look for. And take a look right down there and you can see how the leaves are cupped. Okay, so I'm going to show you a very extreme case of moisture stress, as in not having enough water. And this is an unnamed Neoregelia. It looks like it has not seen any water in a while, and that's the case. This was underneath of an obstruction that stopped the overhead watering from getting to this plant. And take a look, here's what you look for. Now again, I'm showing you this because it is so very, very obvious. And take a look at the curled leaves. Now what this plant is doing is trying to conserve what little bit of water it has left by lessening the surface area on those leaves. And as you can see, this plant has not seen water in an awfully long time. Now again, guys, this is a really extreme example. I'll step back here and let you see the whole plant. And why don't we do a video as to whether or not this plant is a goner? Do you think it can be saved? Why don't we do a video on that and see whether or not we can save it? So, okay, guys, that's it. Now, admittedly, sometimes when it comes to drought stress or when it comes to your bromeliad needing more water, if it's too far along, well, you may not be able to save it. So it really does depend on the length of time that your plant has not had water. So no matter where you are, I hope your sun is shining. I hope you have an island breeze blowing. I know that you and I need to keep growing and have lots of fun. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.